All right, back in here on a GCR as we continue along on a Thursday edition of the program. It's a pleasure now to welcome into the show for the first time us to have the opportunity to meet one of the top prospects in all of Major League Baseball. He was just acquired by the Orioles last week in the Adley Rutschman trade. He's with the Chesapeake Baysox currently. He is Anthony Eyanson, and he is with us here on GCR. Anthony, it's Glenn in Baltimore. It's great to meet you, man. Thank you so much for taking a few minutes for us this morning.
Very nice to meet you as well. Thank you for the opportunity.
Anthony, I know it's been a whirlwind, right? I know you've already done media down there in Bowie this weekend, but can you just kind of take us through like what this feeling is like, everything that goes through your mind when you go? I'm sure it's shocking. I'm sure it's emotional. But what? How do you describe what these last 2 weeks have been like for you?
I've pretty much told everybody these last 2 weeks feel like a month within itself. It feels like so much has happened within, this short amount of time. But obviously with the trade deadline and everything, you really have no idea, what everybody is thinking, that, is running this whole thing. And it's really out of your control. But, when I found out, I've said before, I had, mixed emotions. I didn't really know really what to expect. But I was definitely excited for the new opportunities, just to be in a new environment again and just to, learn from, another organization.
Can you give me a sense of like what I don't know who you talked to from the Orioles when you first got here, but like did they tell you anything about why they were so interested in you? Is there any part of it that like it does make you feel good to know that this organization like really wanted you and to the point that
Yes,
they were
sir.
willing to trade like Adley Rutschman in order to get you?
Yeah, no, it's very much a blessing for sure, and I don't want that to be portrayed any other way. I'm very blessed for this opportunity. We just kind of discussed, what success has looked like for me, in pro ball this first year, and what they're thinking about to help continue that for just the longevity of my career. And I'm just very fortunate to be able to talk to these guys and pick their brains about what's going to make me better.
I want to talk to you about where you're at in this process, right? Because again, this is a shock to the system. But how good did you feel? Obviously, your numbers like were just unbelievable. How good have you felt about where you were before the trade, where you are now after the trade, as far as your progression and where you wanted to be along this path and getting towards the bigs?
Yeah, I feel like I'm in a good spot. Just keeping my intentions, clear and pure, and keeping those, set on, just developing each and every week. Talking to the pitching directors and everybody here that's available for me, and I don't really look into the stats at all. I just look into what's able to be repeatable for me, and mentally just how I can stay clear and stay focused on the game.
What were you happy if it's not the stats, because I would be thrilled about the stats, right? Like they were unreal. If it's not the stats, what have you been happiest with?
Yeah, the stats are going to be what they are. I've been just most happy with, how I've gone about my work, the
Yeah.
process, and, that's always going to be my intentions. The stats are going to be what they are. If I play good or if I play bad, I want to make sure that no matter what, I have good intentions and, I'm giving it, perfect effort.
Anthony Eyanson is with us here on GCR. Anthony, a couple things I wanted to get to with you. One, the splitter, right? Because everybody I've talked to has said that came after you turned pro. That like for as high as everyone was on you, they didn't know that was going to be part of the repertoire until you got to the pro level. Can you tell us about where that came from? Where when you're adding something like that, like where the confidence comes from in order to be able to throw it the way that you have.
Yeah, so I've always had a splitter, honestly. I've had a splitter since high school. I actually developed a slider in college, which is kind of funny.
Huh.
So I threw a fastball, curveball, and splitter in high school. Slider was something that, I had to get a good medium between the curveball and the fastball, and that was my goal in college. And then as I got into pro ball, just, trying to have more repetition with the splitter alongside with the slider. Just finding, good times to include that and good times to, throw that in counts. But yeah, I've always had the splitter. I had the slider and got a good amount of whiff on it, so I didn't really feel like I needed to throw the splitter that
Okay.
much. But in pro ball, I feel like it's definitely going to be something that's going to help me.
The velo on the fastball. I'm sure the other thing that you're sick of talking about at this point, right? Like the 100 in the breakout game, and everybody says, "Oh my God, look at this." I'm guessing now that might have been more of like a showcase, let's have some fun, and not necessarily where you wanted it to be. But can you take us through, because what people have said is, I don't know, is he really going to be sitting 93, 95? Where do you want the fastball velocity to be, and what has the thought process been about how much you're digging into that as you're at the AA level before you get to the bigs?
Yeah, for sure. Obviously that was really cool to, hit 100 for the first time for me in that spring breakout game. I'm very fortunate to do that while staying healthy. I think my main goal and priority is to be healthy. I understand it's a very long season, and my body was obviously, in spring training, that's kind of when you're priming up and your body's not really under a lot of stress, I would say, compared to the long season. But for me, like, I want my fastball to be, mid-high 90s, with really good carry and just to get on the hitters quickly. So I'm just going to continue to work, to be able to hold that. I know that's going to make me the best pitcher that I can be. But my main goal, honestly, is just to, maintain my health and understand that it's a long game, and I have a lot of time in my career to, throw hard.
I understand. I'm thinking that, like, this unique scenario. If we're talking about like the 2027 ALCS, and maybe say you're facing like the Red Sox, just like hypothetically, right?
Sure.
And it's like the 6th inning of Game 3, and the bullpen is ready, and there's 2 outs and like a 2-2 count. Could we maybe see like 100 again in that spot? Like, you're empty in the tank. Could that be a spot where maybe we see it in the future?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I think in that game in general, every fastball that I throw is probably going to be as hard as I can, along with every other pitch for sure.
I respect that.
Just making sure I have good conviction and intent with pretty much, every pitch that I throw. I'm not trying to, hold back on any for sure.
I guess the way that we should phrase this, it sounds like what you're saying is we shouldn't be concerned that the velocity hasn't always been at that high number this season, that has been more purposeful for you about what you're trying to do.
I mean, I guess you could say it like that. I mean, for me, I really just want to maintain my health. I understand that, obviously throwing hard is important, and velocity is important within pitching, but velocity is not pitching. And obviously I don't want you to understand, get under the impression that I don't care about throwing hard. I obviously do. I want to throw hard, but you have to be healthy. And if you're throwing hard, but you're not able to be healthy, it's not really, helping you.
I respect all of that. I completely respect all of that and appreciate the way you're saying it. Anthony Eyanson, I want to know about you, man. I want to get to know you a little bit. Your path, right, from California, and starting in college out there to ending up at LSU. Tell me a little bit about how you fell in love with baseball, why you knew you wanted to be a pitcher, like when it became real for you. Can you just sort of give me a little bit of background on how you've gotten to this point in your life?
Yeah, it's actually funny. So, growing up my whole life, I grew up in a football family. I wanted to be in the NFL.
Wow.
I wanted to be a wide receiver in the NFL. That was my dream since a young age. I've always played football in the fall and baseball in the spring.
I did happen to see that your favorite, athlete was Chad Johnson. I don't know how we feel about that in Baltimore. We had some battles over the years with Chad Johnson.
No, for sure. I just remember watching A Football Life. I'm not sure if you know that series, but
NFL Network.
Chad Johnson. That was honestly one of my favorite things that I've ever seen growing up. And I just loved everything about him. His mindset, his mentality, his confidence, and just the way other teams felt playing him. Like they were like, man, we got to play Ocho Cinco again this week. That dude's crazy. So that's really where I fell in love with it. But yeah, growing up, I've always played football and baseball. I remember telling my dad all the time, I can't wait till I get to high school so I can just play outfield and I don't have to pitch anymore. And he would just laugh at me. He would just laugh at me, just understanding. He's like, man, you're going to be a pitcher one day. And I'm like, Dad, I want to play outfield.
It's so funny you say that, because we were talking to Kyson this week, and he was like, dude, I wanted to be a shortstop. Like, I didn't want to pitch. I wanted to be a shortstop. Did you have to teach yourself to love pitching? Was it one of those things where you're like, I do it because I'm good at it, but I don't really? Did you have to teach yourself to love this skill that you had?
Yeah, so I would pitch a good amount. I was pretty good at it. I don't want to sound cocky or anything, but pretty good at it. But it wasn't my favorite thing to do on the baseball field. High school came around. I was playing shortstop, center field, and pitching still. And I kind of realized, like, man, I'm pretty dominant on the mound. I might have to just suck it up and stay here and fall in love with it. And I ended up falling in love with it. So I'm very, very fortunate for that.
When did you know? Like when your dad? You say your dad was kind of laughing, like he knew. When did you know? And you say you recognize that you had the skill. When did it become real for you? Like, oh, I can do this at the highest level. I can do this and make my living doing it.
Yeah, I would say senior year. Halfway through the season. I kind of looked at my stats one day and I was like, man, I'm kind of doing this thing. And I was like, why don't I just stick with it? I haven't really had a lot of, failure on the field. And I'm just going to keep doing it until I get some. And, senior year followed out. I had a good performing senior year and got an offer from UC San Diego. I thought I was going to two-way there. But they were like, hey, we like you on the mound. We think you can have a, good future, on the mound pitching. And I kind of just trusted them and, it's just led me here.
You obviously end up going from UC San Diego to LSU. And I feel like this context is relevant because, there's a lot of people that are excited about you. And the easy question would be like, how do you handle the microscope? But like you did that already in college, obviously, pitching in like the biggest game of the year. Where does that big game mentality come from for you? How were you able to do that with the lights shining so bright in college? And how confident are you that carries over now as you've got this spotlight on you and a guy that's going to have a lot of attention paid to you in a new organization?
Yeah, I think it goes back to, the days where you're playing in the backyard. I try to keep things simple in my mind and very clear. And that's just the way I approach the game. I don't try to overcomplicate. At the end of the day, it's me against the guy in the box. And, all I'm doing is delivering a pitch. And that, at the end of the day, that's all I can do. So I try to just keep my mind on that. Literally, there's going to be, all these things outside of the field. But at the end of the day, when you step on the mound, all that matters is, you delivering that pitch and executing. So that's just pretty much how I keep a clear mindset.
I appreciate that, man. And obviously it paid off for you during that run to the national championship. Anthony, the important part is how well do you know Ben McDonald? I feel like he's the governor down there, right? Like, did you get to chat with him much when you were down there? Have you had a conversation with him since the trade?
Yeah, so we've had a couple amount of conversations, at LSU. Obviously, he would be around commentating the games and just being around the clubhouse. So we've definitely had some conversations. I have not talked to him since the trade. Obviously he's got his thing going on. I got mine, but I definitely feel like we'll cross paths pretty soon here.
You were not teammates with Blake Money at LSU, correct?
No, sir, I was not.
Okay, yeah, he was. I thought he was a little bit before you, but that is kind of cool. The two of you being back around each other, a couple of LSU guys.
Yes, sir.
The other part of this, I think that we're all fascinated by, Anthony, right? Like how confident do you feel? It's funny because I think a lot of people looked at your progression and said, well, he might still be a little ways away. But I've talked to a lot of scouts who have said, I think this kid might be ready like quick. How ready do you feel like you are? I know you haven't gotten to the AAA level, but a lot of guys never go to the AAA level when they have this type of skill set. Do you feel like you could be ready to do this at the big league level maybe by as soon as next year?
Yes, sir, definitely. That's my goal. Obviously that's my job. That's what I'm here to do. My job here is to get people out, and it'd be crazy for me to say no, I'm not ready. I keep a good focus on, every day I think about, getting that call, making my debut. It's on my mind all the time, and that's the motivation at the end of the day. Mentally, I just think about, what can I do now to help me in Game 7 of the World Series if I was pitching. And, every day I try to, get better and have a sharper mentality and sharper mindset because I understand that is a separator for me.
Man, that sounds great to us, man. You can't answer that question any better. That's really great. Anthony, tell us one thing about you, one thing we should know away from baseball, like when you guys have a Monday off or when you get home at the end of the year, what's something that you're into? What's something that you like to do that's not baseball related?
Yeah, that's a good question. Man, I love amusement parks. I love roller coasters.
Cool. Oh man, it's such a bummer. There used to be a Six Flags literally right across the street from the stadium in Bowie.
That's what I heard.
Oh, that's what I heard. What's your favorite? Like, what's your all-time favorite roller coaster?
I I'm California biased. I would have
Okay.
to say Twisted Colossus out of Six Flags.
Okay.
And Valencia, that one's great. But I talk to all my friends and everything, my family. I tell them like all the time, I would definitely travel around the country just to go on different coasters.
Oh, that's cool, man. We'll get you up to like Hershey Park
Oh,
or
man.
something. Yeah, right. Like that's a
Fire, I need it.
Griffin and I, my kid, we'll take it whenever you got a day. You tell us, we'll take you to Hershey Park. That's a promise on us, man.
Perfect.
Like,
I appreciate that.
I'm 43 years old and I still get excited about getting on roller coasters. I can't lie about that, man. I still get excited. The Baysox are away this week, but they'll be back home next Tuesday night to open up a series against Richmond. A lot of great events next week, including Woof Wednesday, when you can bring your dog to the ballpark, which is always awesome. Next weekend, fireworks night, back to school night, mother-son night out, all going on with the Baysox next weekend, so you want to make sure you're down there to check them out. Anthony, what socials can we plug for you? Where can Orioles fans be giving you a follow?
Yeah, I have Instagram. That's the main one for me. Instagram. It's just my name, Anthony Eyanson. I try to keep try to post a good amount. Pretty much my whole life, baseball, my faith, family, everything like that.
That's awesome, man. And it helps that it's Anthony Eyanson. You didn't have to like fight 20 people in order to get the handle.
Absolutely,
it's a benefit. Anthony, it's great to meet you, man. I'm sure everybody here is really fired up about you and excited to have you here. Let us know when you're ready to take that trip up to Hershey Park. We'll make it happen. Looking forward to talking to you more as you continue along this path. Thank you for spending time with us today.
Thank you very much. I'll make sure I have one of those Mondays cleared for that.
We'll do it.
Park.
Done, dude. Done. Thank you, man. Appreciate you.